And we are live. Welcome to our first episode of the Dishy Switch Podcast, your one-stop shop for all latest developments on the South African and international ultimate front. We aim to catch you up on news regarding tournaments and leagues, WIFTF releases, we rant about gear and dodgy travel calls. We host engaging interviews with the MVPs on and off the field, locally and internationally, from the arena of ultimate. The Dishy Switch Podcast is hosted by Dylan and that guy, and Corne, which is present, both of whom have this t-shirt tans to back up the ultimate validity, as you can see. Our handle on the Instagram is Dishy_Switch, and if you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing. Hit the subscribe button down below and notification bell icon. So when we post new episodes, you are notified and you can catch up in the next one. With that, pleasantries done, I'm switching to Dylan for the news.
Hey everyone. Let's start with everything was cancelled. Locally, the only thing we could do this year really is we had about four weeks of league and then regionals. Joburg regionals, Scaffold won that pretty convincingly. From what I heard, the highest score anyone got against them was 4. In Cape Town region, yeah, 4. It's surprising, isn't it? Then in the Cape Town region, Chile Heat won. Quite a contested final against UCT Firsts. In the Eastern region, it was Wild Coast that won. Kind of a development team that grew up recently. They've actually won 2 years in a row now. And finally in KZN, the Donkeys of course won, and look, I think the highest they got scored against them was 3. Quite contested regionals, very quickly halted by COVID. And yeah, everything since then has been switched off. What do you have to say about that, Corn?
Well, using the power of deduction, you have to assume from that it would be Philly Heat, the Donkeys, Skyfeld, and what you said, Dream won the Eastern.
No, it was Wild Coast.
Wild Coast won the Eastern Cape one. Those 4 would be in the semi-final of nationals, technically speaking.
I mean, that would definitely be the hope. Whether or not,
they would. And from that, what do you think would have happened? Well, it always depends on who drew who, but making assumption that the Donkeys probably get to the final, considering their form the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say Donkeys in the final there. Yeah.
So Heat or Wild Coast or Skyfall.
The really contested match there would be Heat versus Skyfall. I would hope that to be a semi-final, because that would be definitely a very potent semi-final. That's basically UCT versus UCT kind of in the background there, with kind of how those teams were built up this last year. Flip, it would have been a very entertaining one to play, given that I'm part of Chile Heat. And the rivalry was starting to build. Lots of Scaffold players are messaging me almost weekly, telling me how they're going to kick our ass. No pun intended, of course.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, UCT, the University of Cape Town, is one of the, or probably the largest feeder club of talent in South Africa. It's one of the major universities in Africa. I think it's the largest one, actually. They have 3 teams. They have a fantastic development structure. And many of their alumni have fed into Skyfeld, which is a team from the Johannesburg area in Gauteng, and Chile Heat, who is based in Pinelands in Cape Town. So what Dill was referring to there is essentially a lot of ex-UCT players, so UCT alumni, and a lot of these players have been to Worlds and played U24 in 2015 and 2019, and went to WGC in 2016 and WCC in 2018 now. So really, really strong teams. Trying to topple over defending champs, the Long Donkeys, who are, but they've won 3 in a row. How many have they won? It says 18 and 2. 18.
Yeah, they didn't. Unfortunately, they didn't go to the one in Grahamstown, which I believe.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So they actually their streak was broken by that. Actually, no, UCT won.
You guys picked them in 17, didn't you?
Yeah, so it was 2017, 2018 they didn't win, and then 2019 they came back and won it in Cape Town. I'm pretty sure they wanted to do it in Joburg again. On that note of Ultimate in South Africa, I recently asked around and to see who's currently playing. So Cape Town Ultimate started about 2 months ago, playing pickup every Monday and Wednesday. I checked in with Joburg Ultimate as well, and it seems like they've been playing casually for the last 2 months or so as well. I heard of a few matches where Scapel played some like get-togethers. Then Durban Ultimate has been playing for the last 2 months. They had like a temperature gun when they start and all that. Donkeys, they started before everyone else, just with the warning of, if you're coming to Ultimate, you must be okay with the risk of getting COVID. And I'm pretty sure that's how it is with everyone. And from what I've seen on Instagram, Eastern Cape has also recently started. Just once a week, kind of having fun together. I saw the end of year function, they all dressed up together and played some Ultimate. So it's cool to see that everything's kind of, getting off the ground again, people mostly being safe in what they're doing. Anytime that you go play sport, there's a level of risk. But yeah, it's sick to see that people have just started playing pickup and getting back into it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we have for our competitive frisbee, we have a regionals and a nationals in the mixed division. For us, mixed is our largest division, so we have mixed for the first half of the year, and then the segregated divisions in the second half, with a little lull in the beginning of the year to make space for Worlds campaigns, or whatever international campaigns like the Windmill or something like that as well, or All Africa. So this year we were all looking forward to playing regionals, and then nationals, which is normally like end of April, beginning May, and then going to Worlds in July. With developments, obviously that didn't happen. Most of us got to play regionals, and then things started to slow down. So it's really encouraging to see everyone come out of disappointment of missing mixed nationals, international stuff, and the segregated divisions, and seeing the familiar faces in the community again. Obviously, everyone is still a little worried with developments, with the second wave being obviously pertinent and headline news is where things are. For us in the Southern Hemisphere, it's summer holidays anyway, so no one is really around. Everyone is away. So we'll see what the developments are when we come back. Because our leagues generally start the end of January, early Feb, and we'll see where we're at there. But these are really encouraging. It's nice to see that everyone has their heads up.
It was definitely quite weird coming back to Ultimate after 6 months and trying to throw things that I used to throw, during season, and they just flop straight away.
Yeah, and Cape Town is compounded because we have this crap southeaster wind in summer, which just never ceases. So while you're still trying to figure out your throws again, the wind just makes you look like you've never thrown a disc.
Definitely.
While all your friends are watching you throw. So
I remember
it's been
getting to that first session after, and people, invited everyone, and all of us were so unfit. We just started playing, and no one wanted to stop, and at the same time, no one could breathe. It was quite a funny experience. Combined that with people basically rocked up and just started playing without warming up after 6 months of not playing frisbee. And I told one of the top players, Rourke, I was like, "Hey man, look, I'm gonna take the first few points and jog around, get warm." And I'm marking him, and he just bolts. I'm like, "Well, so much for that." But yeah, I mean, things are getting a bit more organized now. A few teams have started practicing a little bit for next year, just getting back into the swing of things. I mean, not doing exercise for 6 months and just diving straight back into it is probably not the greatest idea. So yeah, quite a few teams started their strength. The world's teams have kind of jumped back into it as well. But I think that's the perfect segue to go into international ultimate. With our world's team going to WGC, that's now been moved a year back. So that's coming up in 2021 with both Badgers and Mumbas committing to the tournament currently. And very surprisingly, under 24 wasn't moved, and that's also going to be in 2021. And combined with that, it's the qualifications for CC. So look, a lot is happening next year with a lot of uncertainty. What is your take on that?
I think you summarized it perfectly. For those of us who are part of the WC campaign, our focus is on that for now and has been, with the preseason starting in November with the Honey Badgers, which is the African mixed team, and I know the Mambas, which is the men's team, the opens team. It's also been doing preseason to get everyone ready to up the ante with their training in early January, with proposed tryouts to fill in roster spots in January. But it's difficult not to get distracted by the possibility of sending players to WBC or the U24 tournament, and obviously still doing really well at the club championships, making assumption that they happen, because for us, you need to win nationals in your division to have an opportunity to go to Worlds in 2022 at WCC. So the pressure is on in every way. You want to do well in representing your country, but you also want to do well at club level to make sure that you continue your club program's progression if you're a competitive team, to go for WCC. We haven't heard much about WCC from WIFDF, making assumption that things are going to keep to normal calendar. But as things stand, three major happenings in terms of Worlds tournaments in 2021, and a week away almost, which is crazy. And I just thought about it. I haven't looked into beach at all, so I don't know what's going on with beach. But it looks like to compensate for the lack of frisbee this year, we're going to have a lot of frisbee potentially next year.
Oh, my poor body.
Do you know Windmill's been cancelled for next year?
Oh, yes, of course. Do you think it's cancelled because of WGC, the fact that it's basically the same time, or do you think it's cancelled because of COVID reasons?
I'm going to have to speculate, and it wouldn't make sense that it's cancelled for WGC because it's the month before, generally. So it's normally Windmill, which is one of the largest tournaments in Europe. It's normally in June. And I mean, if you're a European team, you would want to use that tournament as a warm-up tournament or a preparation tournament for WGC. So I imagine that didn't factor into the thinking. But I mean, you have to see with COVID. I haven't read the articles and research it properly.
I mean, what would have been cool, but very unrealistic for us, is to go a month early, go play Windmill, then have a 2-week holiday, and then go play Worlds.
We would have needed a longer weekend, considering that Worlds has moved. WGC's been moved to the last week of July, so we do camp at Windmill, so we could just not leave, just stay there.
Yeah,
just camp for a month in Amsterdam. Yeah. Just some hideout in some corner for a month, and then just travel up country to Leeuwarden, which is in the north of the Netherlands, to go play WGC. So that would have been an option, which obviously has been spoiled for us. So now we need to think of something else.
I mean, the other one that's being cancelled is Masters.
Yeah.
Kind of sad, but does allow for a few more players to join the other campaigns while some people pulled out. But yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, that was only going to happen in September or August.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Surprising that they cancelled that and are still kind of hoping for WGC. I guess that's slightly because of the age factor. I'm not saying everyone there is old. I'm just saying that everyone is slightly older than us. They're the same age.
Yeah, well,
that my mind is.
I think a major consideration there is that Australia has officially closed their borders until the end of next year.
Of course.
So even if they wanted to host it, no one can come because no one can get into the country.
I mean,
I'm not sure if that has changed in the meantime. Yeah, you would hope so. Yeah, so at this point in time, Masters has been cancelled, which is a pity. I know from mixed Masters team, it would have been a very interesting campaign because it was a nice confluence of very experienced Masters players who've been part of the game for some of them 20 years in South Africa, which is a big deal here. and newer Masters players, people who have just come of age in the Masters division, and bring a different style of play and a different tempo and that kind of thing. So I was actually really excited for the Masters campaign to see what they do.
I mean, we definitely have quite a different Masters team than most others, where like our Masters range is from when you come of age to like 50 something.
Yeah.
So it's like different to most countries where those people, a lot of those people would have been grandmasters. And just to see how they would compete against people, you're not playing in the open division where people are, between the age of like 24 and 30. Now you're playing against people that are, just coming into the 30s. And would have been cool to see like the difference in potentially athleticism and ability, but at the same time using your experience correctly would have been a very different way of playing.
I agree with you. I mean, mentioning the top part of the age group for our Masters team, I don't remember if Ian Alexander was on the Masters team, who is a gent in his 50s and an absolute legend in our game in South Africa. I mean, he's been to, I don't even know how many world championships. All that experience counts. He is a really good athlete as well. But I'm very sure he has the experience and the guile to make sure that he still gets the separation he needs to get on offense, and make sure the offensive player doesn't get too much separation when he's on defense. And yeah, that's a real pity. I was really looking forward to that campaign, especially seeing it was supposed to be after WGC, so we actually would have had a chance to follow, opposed to 2016 when Masters happened at the same time as WGC. And yeah, we basically couldn't watch each other because we were always playing almost at the same time. The Masters men's team being the 2016 team.
Those are some games that I really wanted to watch, because just seeing Darren play against people that are considerably younger than him and him just running away and using his height would have been incredible to see. I'm quite sad to miss quite a few of those matches.
Yeah, I agree. Darren Holcomb being a 2012 Mambas, so men's open, I think it's open again now, division. Player went to Worlds in Japan and played WGC with the men's Masters team. He's a 6'5", 6'6", throws a thumber, and incredibly accurate thumber as well, and good in all conditions.
It's only ever been hand blocked once, I believe.
Yes, that's what we've been told. But yeah, I wish I would have watched more of that too, because again, that was a nice mix of what is the Long Donkeys, which is the eastern part of the country, in South Africa's major team, the defending national champs, and a lot of players from the rest of the country, some from Joburg, some from Cape Town. And I do regret that I didn't get to see a friend of mine, Henry's layout, Callahan, which I would have loved to have seen. Which now is just local folklore, because no one's really seen it except the Masters play. But we were busy playing.
So, I mean, the question that really comes up now is like, how does South African Ultimate deal with the complexity of having all of this next year while trying to deal with COVID? I mean, we know that we have less control over WGC, given by the fact that we can only go if they say that we can go, and then on top of that we can only go if like our environment kind of allows us to. But them going forward with under 24 just means that there's potential under 24s in our team that might be pulled over to that. Or is South Africa even going to send an under 24 team? Is it kind of too late and we've committed to these other campaigns, which means that we shouldn't commit to the under 24 campaign?
I agree with you. All of them really good points. And it's so difficult to not just purely speculate at this point in time. Do we have the player base to send an under 24s team? I think we only have a bid for the open, the mixed division, the U24. Technically, yes. The pressures of financially of the last year is difficult to know at this point in time, because we just haven't seen players and had the opportunity to chat to them. It would be bizarre for U24 to happen if UWGC doesn't happen, because I would imagine that WGC would not happen because of concerns regarding players' health and traveling and those kind of things, and those things pertain to U24 as well. I mean, if worse comes to worse, this is going to be a WCC qualifying year for most of us.
I mean,
if leagues and stuff happen, right?
I've played in Dublin before. That's where under 24 is going to happen, and I can say that it's not necessarily the most fun. So not having it there, I mean, very sad that it's not happening or potentially not happening. But also, playing in that much rain and mud is not the most fun in the world. When you're just trying to get your cleats out of the ground.
Did you play juniors?
Yeah, so I played juniors there, and back when I went, they were huddling underneath a tree, and the tree fell on them.
Oh my goodness.
So from then on, the rest of the tournament was kind of just like hey guys, where are we going to huddle? And some guy would be like, let's huddle underneath the tree so we get some shelter. And everyone was like, no more trees. So yeah, that was quite an interesting thing to happen. So yeah, I mean, it's a sick place to have it. Ireland's a lovely place to go. Just flip that rain. The jokes about it are very true. It just doesn't stop.
Yeah, and I mean, for us as South Africans, we don't need a visa to go there, which helps. The rain seems to be something that affects World Tournaments. Lecco in 2014 in Italy was also badly affected by rain.
And WGC
one
that
game.
4 years ago.
Yeah, WCC that happened there in 2014. In Finderhan, who's a former major player in our community, always tells the story of an opponent female player who made a cut, ran into a puddle. When she got to the other side, the cleat was still in the puddle. Just got devoured by the mud.
I mean, sorry, I
was next level with the using helicopters to dry the field. That was amazing.
I was talking about the WGC in London 2016, the one that as opens. That also was rained out. Quite a few of our
we missed that day, right? Yeah.
And that last game that we played was basically, are you playing on the left side of the field or the right side of the field? Because you can't play in the middle.
Was that the game against the field that was at an angle?
Yeah, there was an angled
the very
field.
top.
Yeah, angled field against Denmark. Very interesting. Because when you're in the middle of the field, you could do nothing. Plus, you were throwing uphill. So everything was stacked against you.
And I remember because there was a dirt road because there was a fence there, there was a dirt road right next to it, and there was a manure truck that would drive up and down. So every 15 minutes you had to hold your breath for a while so the manure truck would get past, and then you can focus on playing frisbee again.
Just making a cut and then you stop. Guys, time out.
Time out.
Wait for it to pass you. Okay, game back on.
Equipment cool.
Kind of, while speaking about international things, I know it's exceptionally difficult in the South African context, but I went to do some research on what other places are doing, and while I couldn't find a lot of information, I found a little bit about Canadian Ultimate and just some of the rules and some of the changes that they've made. So, of course, with COVID being quite bad in kind of the States, and I actually don't know how bad it is in Canada, some of the things that they changed is at all times, to the best of your ability, stay 2 meters away from people. Which, of course, would be interesting when you're jumping against someone. I don't think you can there.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But what they're referring to there, I think, is, when marking someone when being off the field, not when you're running to try and catch the frisbee. Sorry about that noise. And the kind of especially difficult part there is you can't be within 2 meters of the person that has the disc in hand. So that the way that they try to change that is then they change the score from 10 to 8.
Okay.
So I mean,
makes sense.
They came up with some ways to change the game to not force you to be kind of as close to people. Of course, this is for more of their friendly leagues. I don't think they have any competitive leagues going on at the moment. But it's just the way that they Yeah, they also changed the length of the games. Now they just have 2 40-minute halves instead of like a full game.
Well, you get to play frisbee, right? That is the advantage there. It makes sense. I'm actually just checking the stats here. Canada is lower down in the world. I can't call them rankings, but the stats regarding COVID, it's not as intense as the neighbors to the south. So I'm not sure if that factors into this at all. But they well into their winter right now. So I'm not sure how much outdoor frisbee is happening.
So they have actually changed indoor as well. I just didn't read up. I was completely actually forgot that it's winter there. But on that as well, of course, like American Ultimate is quite a bit more, I would say, more competitive than South African Ultimate. And of course, people,
slightly more players.
People generally win there a little bit as well. You know, when you go to Worlds, you're aiming for top 4. But of course, people don't want to stop playing, so they've had to come up with a few kind of new games that you can play that's going to keep you safe while allowing you to play. You know, then your only worry is really sanitizing the disc to make sure that you're keeping it as clean as possible. And one of the kind of resources that I found was something called Lane Ultimate, which is basically you create 2-meter lanes, and then in that you have a whole field. So I explained that poorly. So you have 2 end zones like normal Ultimate, and then your field is broken up into 2-meter lanes.
Your central zone.
Yeah, your central zone. Thank you. And then in that you alternate O and D. So with that, you're not allowed to leave your kind of lane that you're in, which means that the person that you're marking is always a distance away from you. So quite a clever way to make sure that you can still play Ultimate in a kind of non-conventional way, but you're still getting that running, the disc touching. You can throw hucks to people across the field. If you're accurate enough, you can put it far into someone's lane so that someone else can't compete against it. We'll put the link in the bio so that you can read it yourself. But it's just a way to kind of allow you to play as proper Ultimate as you can while keeping you as safe as you can.
Yeah, it looks like I have it on the other screen here. It looks like an athletics track. It's like subdivided into 7 like running lanes over the width of the field, which is 37 meters. So yeah, use your calculator there. The only concern I have is on this picture I see is that they haven't divided the end zone. I'm not sure if the end zone is also supposed to be divided into 7 lanes, or if that is just where.
I assume it would be. Otherwise, it would kind of defeat the purpose. I mean,
yes, exactly.
let's be safe until we have to score, and then we don't care anymore. It's competitive.
Yeah, they haven't thought that through.
But the one thing about it is you're always outnumbered in terms of defense. So there's probably going to be some interesting ways in terms of you have to decide do you want to mark the person with the disc. That's going to be quite difficult. I mean, you're standing away from them. Or do you mark all the people making piston cuts all the time? I mean, I would say it's a beautiful
all the time.
Beautiful game to learn shape.
All the time.
Just,
you're going to do like 3 and you can be dead because everyone's on it.
Well, I guess, okay, so let's just say that there's 7 lanes and the field is 37 wide. That's going to be just over 4 meters each. 5 meters each, just over 5 meters each. I mean, you can still do your lateralness. It's just not going to mean anything when you have a defender between.
So you have 7, if I understand correctly, you have 7 players on the field. You have 4 offensive players and 3 defensive players, each in their own lane. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. That's going to be interesting.
But I mean, the one thing it's definitely going to teach you is to kind of defend properly. I mean, you still have to watch the person's hips to make sure that you're turning properly. I mean, that's the fundamentals of cutting. The only difference here is that if you don't, you're going to beat someone off the first and second degree of separation and not the third.
Yeah, I agree.
You got to turn away. But I mean, that's the perfect time to learn how to mark that cut properly and how to make that cut properly. I mean, if you don't cut hard,
I agree.
You jogging towards the disc, the guy's going to beat you. And by doing that, you're stopping the next person in the next lane to be able to cut as well.
Yeah. And defensively, this is great for getting used to having your head up. Because with every time a disc moves, you're out of position, and with a normal field, and in this instance, you're going to be a lot more out of position than you normally are, because the area you can cover on the field is very different. But having a head up is going to be huge, because you need to know where the disc is, and you need to know where the person is you're defending. My concern is that you're going to need a crap load of discs to be able to set out the lanes, because it's 100 meters of lanes. Otherwise, that becomes vague. The lanes become vague quickly.
I see what you're saying.
And so I've used a similar, not quite the disc length, but I've used a similar drill, which is good to teach people first degree of separation. So from standstill to get some kind of separation as the offensive player to get open and receive. And the other thing, to get everyone on the disc, to not make sure that everyone gets a lot of touches. So moving from one side of the field with the disc all the way back would be considered one completion, so one score. That keep this but a little more complicated than that. And I can definitely see the advantages. And if or when we get a full field, I'm definitely going to try this. It's fun, even if we don't have the restrictions we have now.
Oh yeah, 100%. I was going to say that as well. I feel like this is something kind of perfect to teach your team to run hard, throw a shape, because you can throw a shape around the defender. It's perfect to throw it straight to. This is also perfect for leading passes. If you can put it in front of someone 2 lanes ahead, with some touch, it's going to set up perfectly for them.
And you can complicate it as well a little bit by have the players who are set up in the 7 lanes, the offensive players being cutters, and then having handlers in the backfield space, and the handlers can run wherever. So then it's a horizontal stack defense or offense without obviously a defender down. But if you want to work on a piston style horizontal stack, this would be great. Or if you want to isolate the handler set and make sure the handlers get a lot of reps, so they get to this, there's not an open immediately, so they need to work on their handler resets a lot. I think that could be quite useful too.
Yeah, again, we'll link this in the bio so that people can read it if they want. Definitely take it forward as a team if you want to give it a try. Send us videos. Let us know what you think. But yeah, moving away from that, moving away from the news, which is quite a lot of news and quite a lot of kind of just things between it. Let's talk about us. What qualifies us to do this? To kind of.
So normally we're going to try to have a guest section, which will be after the news / rant about what's going on in the Frisbee world, which is this segment we're in right now. But considering that this is the first episode, we thought it'd be useful just to, just give you some background info, how we fit into the Frisbee world, what our backgrounds are and that kind of thing. So seeing as you switched this back to me, I'll start with this question though. How did the Frisbee thing start for you?
So I started when I was 14. Always loved sports. So when someone at my church was just like, hey, come throw a Frisbee with us on the beach, we called it Ultimate, I was definitely, I definitely said yes. And just through that fell in love with it straight away. Back then we didn't have a league or anything. We just played beach Ultimate once a week. And we used to do this thing called cockroaching. I have no idea why they called it that. But it was basically that you just stand in the end zone and you shout, throw it to me. And people would do it. So that's how I started playing Ultimate. And soon from then, East London kind of started a league. And, I just kind of grew with the system that they had. Until one day, I was very into Ultimate. I want you to know that I was very, very into Ultimate. And I decided to come to Cape Town for a one-day hat tournament that UCT hosts called Springfest, which is an indoor tournament. And my dad agreed, and we came to Cape Town to play that tournament. And Ant Pasco, at that stage, one of the leadership of Chile, invited me to come play Rocktober with him. And that's kind of how my ultimate career kind of shot off, and they started teaching me kind of more of what I know. Um, and once I finished school, I was going to go to a university in Port Elizabeth until UCT accepted me, and I said no to the university in PE because I wanted to play Ultimate. So then I moved to Cape Town and played for UCT since then. Stopped playing for UCT about 2 years ago and started coaching Chile Heat. So kind of did the full circle there. I mean, they taught me how to play, and now I give them advice on how to play.
What year did you come down to Cape Town for the indoor tournament?
Oh, gee.
2011.
I think it was, yes. Because I played October with them in 2011, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember seeing this kid at the tournament. I'm like, who's this guy? And then I heard he came all the way from East London. I'm like, that is some commitment, because people weren't quite that committed back then here in South Africa. And obviously, if he continues playing, he's going to be a great player.
I'd say I'm okay. I play something.
But yeah, for me, it's a bit of a complicated story, because I started playing a bit later on. I was about 25 when I started playing. So I played football, which is soccer, for the University of Stellenbosch. My sister and I both played for their teams, and it's a very cosmopolitan team, very international team, for both of the men's and the women's one. My sister made a friend on the women's team who is American, and she played Frisbee in Cape Town, and got my sister involved. So I was exposed to Frisbee with my sister playing a few years before I started playing, and obviously ridiculed it as not a real sport. Told it to throw a Frisbee on the beach while I played proper sport in football. And then in 2010, I was looking for a way to keep fit during the football off season, and heard that Ultimate was a very inviting community, which it is, and you run a lot, which you do, especially if you don't know what you're doing, which none of us did back then. We still played barefoot back then, actually, and the bug bit really hard, and a decade later, still as crazy about the sport as ever. Dylan and I actually played on Chile together before he went to UCT. So he would, while he was in East London, he would join the Antlasco team, which is Chile, or was just Chile back then. Chile has split into two teams since then. So we played October together in 2013, which is that crazy hot year at Pirates.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was, I think we finished fourth. The only time anyone ran during that tournament was the exhibition game, because it was at night. Because it was so hot and at altitude, which in Cape Town is at the coast. So for us to go up the altitude is challenging enough, but when it's that hot and the field is that dead, no one's laying out, no one's running. You're just sunburned and tired. But
a lot of players through that.
I remember the Opens game or tournament we played with the same club at in Durban in 2014 quite well, because as I was looking for pictures for a video intro. A lot of them, which I could potentially use, was from that tournament, and one of them was still on the disc. This was back when I was still a cutter, breaking his defender around, full pivot backhand around the defender, and all I had to do was jog him to the break side and score. You said yourself, quite a high bar there. I'm happy to see you maintain.
Well, this is why I learned the Harley's flick. I don't have to go as far on the back end. Just,
I remember still teaching you reset cuts that tournament.
Oh yeah, and then I took that back to East London and taught all of them reset cuts. Back then, we just used to run like crazy and be like, throw me the first meet. We didn't know what was going on. And we had some weird things. But yeah, I mean, flip, I really enjoyed those tournaments back when I was playing Chile. Except, I remember playing a mixed tournament with Chile. It was my first, I think it was my second tournament. Or wasn't my first October? Anyway, it was in Durban. And back in those days, I wasn't wasn't great. I didn't really know how to do proper cuts. So we were playing the Donkeys, I think in the semi-final. And I sat the whole match. And I didn't care because I got to watch everyone play. But yeah, that was starting for me. Back in the day, Chile used to make me hold the bench for them. I would keep it warm, you know.
What year was this?
I know it. There's actually pictures of it, but I don't know where it is. It was a team with Skelton on it. Julian, I can't remember where. I just know it was in Durban.
Yeah, so that was 2014 Open Nationals.
No, there was another one. There was an October in Durban before that. I don't think he won that team.
That must have been 2011.
Yeah,
Julian would not have been on that team though.
Okay, maybe when I said Julian, I meant to say Julia, but then I just added an N and
Okay.
it was too late for me to correct, but now I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, look, we've been playing for a long time. But why are we doing this? Why make a podcast? Other than me just saying, let's make a podcast.
So yeah, well, that obviously initiated it. Don came up with this great idea. He did a lot of market research regarding a podcast of, I don't know how long it took you, a few minutes maybe. He's very efficient. He'd make young Jamie on Joe Rogan's podcast look bad. So for us, being a smaller community, we are South African and we are mostly based in Cape Town. For us, I think it'd be interesting for our local community to be exposed to a format, a podcast format, so a longer form where we discuss what's happening in the world, what's happening on the world's teams, where we're involved in our club teams and that kind of thing, and having engaging and interesting interviews with local players, international coaches and players, and people of influence in the community, because that is the bar we're setting. But at the same time, I think it would be really interesting for individuals from larger ultimate communities across the world to hear about what it's like to be a South African ultimate player. What's it like to be part of a community of 450-ish people, which is tiny. And we do field 16 teams at nationals in the mixed division, but what's it like being such a small community and being very far away from everything and having a currency which is what, 18 to the euro or 16 to the euro. I haven't checked as exchanges this week because I'm on leave. But having all of those challenges and then still going towards and being competitive, and how we go about recruiting and how we go about continuity and sustainability when it comes to our community and the growth of our community, not just competitively, but how do we double the size of our community to 900 or 1,000 in the next few years? Because that's, in our opinion, is going to benefit everyone. That's pretty much, in my opinion, where this is coming from. What do you think, though?
No, I mean, I definitely agree. There isn't much content in terms of ultimate made in South Africa. I would say there's almost none. I mean, occasionally there's photographers that come watch things, and I know that a few kind of nationals have been recorded, but there's nothing ready to look back to see what we've done and where we're going, as well as just hearing things from around South Africa. I mean, there's many people that just have no idea what's happening in the province that isn't theirs. I mean, basically, in the team that isn't theirs, they don't know what's happening. And we're just hoping to bring a little bit more of that, kind of make more of one South African ultimate, and then also just to give people knowledge of what's happening outside of South Africa. And hopefully we benefit through that, and people can kind of get this fierce, which we have as excitement, to kind of just want to play more and really want to do more. And yeah, this is kind of the first form of that. It's quite a simple thing to reach many people.
I agree 100%. I mean, the ultimate as a sport is quite interesting for many reasons, but off the field is the international community doesn't feel very international when you're mixing. When you're at a massive tournament or international tournament, it's just Frisbee players. People are still there's still parity, there's still relatability and that kind of thing, which maybe will be lost when it turns professional one day, when the sport is all grown up. But at this point in time, there's definitely a lot of connection still, and we want, and we can, I think, through this platform, show that to our local community amongst other things, and engage with our international one, because you guys will be seeing us at World Championships and international tournaments, and we're looking forward to catching up with you guys when we get there.
So, I think we have a little bit more time to do some quickfire questions. I'll shoot some your way, you shoot some my way, and then we call it there. So, I mean, random questions. Here we go. What's your favorite throw?
I'm so bad at this. I suppose there's two at this moment, and this is not quickfire at all, which is I love the forehand outside in dagger, which is just such a lazy throw. You just ping it into a space, then high release inside break backhand, which I do love.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah, and you do.
I change how I mark people. I change how I mark you. I just put my left hand up. So I'm like, no left.
That's good.
Yeah, I'd probably, if you're going to choose two, I have to choose two. It's either going to be the lower release flick, because I can get there really quick. And then I like throwing blades. I really like throwing my flick blade. It's a bit difficult because they're a little bit more difficult to catch. So I was hoping to utilize them kind of on the world stage where everyone is, constantly has that ability to bring down any throw. But yeah, that flick is just so quick that you can get it into space and get it to a free player kind of easily. And then that inside break, I love going for the break side. It works in no wind, it works in wind. Cool. Who was your favorite player, or like who inspired you back in the day? You've been playing for 10 years.
None of these are gonna have short answers. So I suppose my frisbee catalyst was in 2013 when I went to Windmill and participated at the Rise Up camp that was hosted there, and got the opportunity to be coached by quite a few different players, from soccer in particular, and there was a player from Double Wide and so on. And Sam Harkness, who I got to work or coach this for one of the days, and the other day was by Ben Wiggins, which was insane in itself. But Sam Harkness was definitely in the beginning a huge influence for me. He's a great dude. He's a really cool person, and a very good player. And he was D-line handler for soccer for a long time, and I just admire him greatly for that. But I suppose once that egg got cracked, it's been Kid Gibson and Masahiro Matsuno. Those are the two that I've always gravitated back to, no matter who else came onto the stage. I admire both of them massively, especially Masahiro, who's obviously in a more isolated part of the world frisbee-wise, and just does incredible things. And his big match temperament is off the scale, if there were a scale for that kind of thing. At the final in WGC 2016 against Team USA in the men's division, it's a fantastic showcase of what he can do on the biggest stage. And really wish to play against him someday. Just to have that honor. I'm completely in awe with what those two do.
Yeah.
You?
Sure. Just looking at Gibson, like he was on Amazing Race as well. So can you get any bigger than that? Like first star, TV star, basically.
Yeah.
I ran up to him actually at Worlds and I was like, "Hey, I saw you on TV."
You got to play against him. So.
Yeah, he wasn't very entertaining though when I said that. But yeah, there is. So okay, I'll start with who the person is. The person is Mac Taylor, and I wish I could tell you why, but I just gravitated to him when I was in grade 8 and started playing Ultimate. I used to love Revolver, and he played for them, and he was just a huge player on their team. height-wise and how we played. And yeah, I mean, I chose my number after that and everything. So that's how I got the number
I
40.
don't know.
But yeah, I mean, that was the player that I looked up to. I don't really know who anymore. I mean, I struggle to find as much time to watch international.
He plays for a mixed team now, right?
I think he does. I know he played.
One of the bigger ones.
I know he played USA mixed at WG.
Yeah.
But he's not really a man I would want to mark with his size.
Yeah, he's
pretty
really tall. Yeah. Yeah, he's at one of the big ones. I don't think it's Dragon Thrust, but one of the big mixed teams in the US.
But those teams constantly change who's at the top. It's Dragon Thrust. If it's Mixtape, Wildcard, like all of them just like completely swap who's winning. I know there's one I'm missing from Philly. I just can't remember the names. They won UCC.
An AMP as well.
There we go. It's AMP. There we go.
Team Fern played for.
Pardon?
Fern played for AMP, didn't she?
I actually have no idea.
She played with them for one season, I think, or a couple of seasons.
So, last question, and a section that I think we should potentially do going forward. It's kind of like a banter question. So, I put this out to anyone that watches to send us questions that you think are just the most ridiculous. And here's an example for you. Kone, does the color of your cleat make you run quicker? And if so, which color is it?
That's an interesting question. So let's start with the colors of cleats I've had: black, white, blue, red, orange. This weird green, Puma green. I've had a lot of cleats. I destroyed them pretty quickly. I suppose it depends on how comfortable you feel in them. I mean, if you aesthetic is a big part of our sport, you just need to look at the fashion of what we have. Our shorts are baggy, which has not been in fashion since the 90s. And we obviously spend a lot of time in the sun, which also forces us to wear longer stuff and so on, especially in South Africa where it is very hot in summer. So at the moment, I have 3 pairs of cleats. 2 of them are black, and the other one's set as blue. And I suppose the black ones are better, but it's because of the cleat pattern, not the color. What do you think, Bill?
I mean,
I'm
thinking back to my cleats and which ones. I'm thinking, the more it went with my outfit, the quicker I was.
Really?
Yeah, obviously that's how.
Give us examples. Okay.
I used to have a pair of bright orange cleats. Then I used to wear them with bright orange pants and like a red shirt. And I would say then I was.
And you're still alive. It's the fashion police didn't arrest you. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I used to wear like long socks with colors as well. And the one day someone walked up to me and was like, "You have to respect it." And that was the last day I wore that.
Evidently, that person hasn't walked up to John McCoy.
But yeah, I mean, no.
Or Dr. John McCoy.
I would say no. The color of the cleats has absolutely nothing to do with how quick you run. But that's just my controversial opinion. You can disagree if you want.
Let's mix the spot a little more. What if you had cleats that had LED lights in them that could, like when you land through kinetic energy, they would light up? Would that make you faster? Honestly, because it would distract your defender?
I think it might make you appear faster. I mean, they make the flash look fast by putting lines behind it, and that would technically do something like that, especially if someone took a picture with like a low shutter speed. So yes.
Just be like panoramic.
It would make you appear faster, but I don't think it would make you faster. But hey, that's just my theory. I know nothing about science.
Yeah, this is definitely science. It's been peer reviewed. We'll post our article in some science journal quite soon, so you have to look out for that.
Yeah, with my terrible English, I wrote it. It was great.
Grammarly.
Cornet peer reviewed it. We have a few PhDs in our ultimate community. They can also peer review if they want, I guess.
It's like our communities are doctorate people
Well, it's because our
in Cape Town.
programs have so much ultimate that I guess they just get introduced to it somehow. But yeah,
I agree.
I think that's what we have time for today. So
That bombshell.
yeah, now that you know that cleats, the color of your cleats make you quicker.
Oh, that bombshell. My mouse cursor is not working. Yeah, that is it. We managed to get through the first one. We managed to not let the rounds get out of control. Anyway, happy holidays. Please stay safe. We just like you, waiting with bated breath to see what the developments are. Look after yourselves and your loved ones, and we hope to see you guys on the field really soon. And we'll keep you up to date with developments. One of those hot topics being WBC.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.